Hey, what's up, everybody? Frederick Polk here. One of the things I love about studying history is looking at unintended consequences, and history's full of them. That's why, in the present moment, really anybody that says, hey, we're going here, doesn't matter what they present. At best, it's a guess because we just don't know. But it's always the little things that kind of form unintended consequences. Little things like eggs, and I'll get to that in a minute. See, I'll give you a historical example. Barbara Tuchman, a journalist and a historian, she wrote a book called The Guns of August. It came out in 1962, and she wrote a whole bunch of other stuff. She's considered a popular historian, very accessible history, kind of like Doris Kearns Goodwin or Heather Cox Richardson. Anyway, she talked about World War One, and as we know now, all these alliances that kicked off once Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated. And we look back and say, oh, yeah, that was the cause. But at the time, those nations thought they were a deterrent because of all these different alliances. No one would actually, want to go to war, right? But once they kicked off, it was kind of like, oh, well, we're in it. And so off they went. That's the thing about unintended consequences. You don't really see when you lay the groundwork for them. So we'll get back to eggs. The USDA, I read an article today, said that eggs might rise 41% over the price now, which they're already high, in 2025. 41%. Just think of how many things eggs touch in foodstuffs. Bakeries, breakfast diners, which I've seen articles that people are already like, the salient takeaway from a lot of those is who wants to pay $25 for breakfast. Denny's and Waffle House are doing surcharges for eggs in their breakfast. Also saw another one today. Beef prices are up. 5% over inflation and rising. Not enough cattle stock. A lot of that is due to corporate consolidation. They put a lot of ranchers out of business, jacked the prices up so they could buy land cheap. And the reason we let them get away with that is it was supposed to lower the price of beef. But lo and behold, monopolies actually raised prices. That was another thing that we study from history. Teddy Roosevelt, trust busting. Of course, Trump is looking at the McKinley blueprint. Raising tariffs, overseas bellicose aggression. And McKinley was assassinated 6 months into his second term. Now, I'm not advocating that for Trump. I really want to be clear on that. I don't want to get in trouble by, I don't want some Doge goon showing up at my door or whoever they farmed that out to besides the Secret Service. So I'm not advocating for that. But that was a really bad time in America because at that point, 60% of households couldn't afford household goods. This nostalgia that we love to look back on, like old Ma and Pa out on the frontier, they just made do because they knew how to stretch a penny. They didn't have a choice because everybody was broke and Sears and Roebuck was a little too expensive, thanks to tariffs. History doesn't repeat itself, but man, does it rhyme. So then you start looking at other things, right? You look at political ideology. You look at the government we have. Price of eggs are going up. USDA is warning of that. Democrats might step in and say, you know what we'll do? We'll import eggs and we'll pass a subsidy from the government to egg producers or supply chains. We'll fit the difference so we can keep egg prices stable. Democrats would do that. Republicans won't. No, because it's, again, the free market. And they don't believe in government. The GOP House, the Republican House, just passed the Trump blueprint. All Republicans voted for it, I think, except one. And then all Democrats voted against it. I think there were 3 no votes, but basically all the Democrats voted against it. So that's the $4.5 trillion tax cut. And they're making cuts to Medicaid, which affects 73 million Americans. And while I can't guess where we're going, I'm not going to do that. But you've got 2 things in the American food diet. 2, eggs and beef. Bakeries, baked goods, desserts, breakfast foods, you name it. Eggs are in so many things. They're part of WIC. They're part of SNAP benefits, all that. Okay? Beef, hamburgers, steaks, you name it. We are a beef-eating country. And now you've pissed off a bunch of people like the EU and Canada and Mexico with threats of tariffs. And they've already passed bans on imports and everything else. You're fucking around with Ukraine, which is basically Europe's breadbasket. So even if you wanted to do subsidies on imports, you think these allies that you've been shitting on are going to help you out? And now you're going to cut benefits for 73 million of the poorest people while grocery prices are rising. And people like myself and others are already pulling back in a consumer-based economy. Man, those unintended consequences. And it's going to hurt even worse that you've got incompetent, ideologically crazy people in government that are taking a chainsaw, metaphorically, to government agencies that are the ones that are supposed to help us out. Whew. I don't know where this is going, but boy, things those directions aren't looking real good. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Keep the faith, defend democracy, and I'll see you later.